This is the Capital Games Movie Club. I am the Wiz.
And I am Zero. The prodigal son has returned.
Zero, you're back! Welcome back, Zero. It's been a long time since you've been back, man. It's good to see you.
Yeah, just had some personal stuff going on that it put me in a really bad headspace that the thought of even trying to watch movies felt just so wrong in this particular headspace that I was just like, I can't do it. I gotta step away, or else I'm just gonna feel like I'm just spinning my wheels and doing nothing with my personal stuff, just going completely down the crapper.
Okay, no, that's understandable. Okay, well, it's good to have you back. I think you are coming back permanently, right? You're officially back, or is this just a one-off? Because this was a movie I think you were looking forward to watching, and I just didn't feel right watching this without you here. So, are you back, or is this just a one-off?
Definitely back.
Nice.
It will be related to an announcement later this week, so
right.
We won't really talk about that until we get to Friday.
Right. So, if you guys are only on the YouTube channel, we also do a game podcast called Capital Games. That's where Capital Games Movie Club came from. But the announcement will be there on Friday. The only change happening here is that Zero's back, and that's it. So, nothing more to that. So, let's get started with the review. Zero, we are reviewing the film that got 11 Academy Award nominations at this year's Oscars. That's Everything Everywhere All at Once, the 2022 fantasy film, starring Michelle Yeoh, Huy Quan, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Stephanie Hsu, directed by Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, otherwise known as The Daniels. Zero, I know you're not big into film. That's kind of why you wanted to do this, and you want to be introduced to different types of films. I talk about film all the time with you, and so you already know that Everything Everywhere All at Once is the big movie from last year, is the movie that got all people talking, that it seemed like everyone was enjoying, and that everyone was saying was an excellent movie. What were your thoughts going into seeing this movie before?
Before I saw the movie, I was just like, okay, the cast looks interesting. It looks like it's kind of got just a mishmash of genres thing going, so definitely kind of curious on how this will play out, and just generally a lot of curiosity over the film in general.
Mm-hmm. And you are someone who really likes Asian cinema, so you're very familiar with the actress Michelle Yeoh. I'm not as familiar with Asian cinema, but I definitely enjoy Michelle Yeoh's work. She's a very good actress who's been underrated for quite a long time. For her to get all this buzz and award buzz for this role had me pretty excited, because to me, that means that I'm not only expecting the excellence that she's had in the past in movies like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and most recently Crazy Rich Asians, which she was actually very good in, despite maybe not being big fans of the film, but it was a good film. I was expecting a revelatory performance in this. So, what were your thoughts generally about Michelle? What were your thoughts about Michelle Yeoh before the movie?
In American cinema, she's usually typecasted as the sort of badass female character who's just got like a repertoire of skills in firearms usage and martial arts, and that's what most people know her for. Crazy Rich Asians was and her role in there was kind of a change. And the role that she was cast in is a role that she's actually done a lot in Asian cinema. So it was kind of interesting just seeing her name on this movie, and I was just like, okay, well, from what little I know on the movie, it sounds like this may potentially throw her back into the action character role. So I was just like, okay, that seems like that's where things are going to go. But just maybe this film may surprise me and typecast her in some other roles. I don't know.
Right. There are a ton of storylines involved with this movie, mainly comeback storylines, especially with Huy Quan. There is a little bit about Jamie Lee Curtis. There is a talk about Stephanie Hsu, and basically the popularity she's getting from this movie. So we won't go into all of those. So let's just dive right into our thoughts of Everything Everywhere All at Once. Let's start off with visuals, okay? The first thing that pops up immediately when you watch this film, when I watched the film, I should say, is the visual style of it. It is very bombastic, very colorful. It's meant to be a crazy type of visual spectacle in this, which I think in that aspect, the visual-wise, the movie does a great job on. What I was surprised by was a limited budget that this movie had. This might surprise you. The movie costed $25 million to make.
Wow.
Surprises you, doesn't it? Because like I was thinking, oh, this must have been like 50, 75, maybe 100. $25 million for what this movie does. And this movie does visually go all over the place in this. So I would think something this complex at times, visually, would probably cost a lot more money, and it just didn't. They report a budget of $25 million in this. So what were your thoughts on the visuals of the movie?
The visuals are very interesting, especially when it goes to certain scenes. Certain scenes end up getting like some very drastic, or even in some cases very bombastic visual colors and everything. Like I know there's one scene where it's depicted in just very, very contrasting black and white, and it's just visually bold to the eyes. Mm-hmm. I thought that was very, very interesting in some of the scenes where just the colors are very, very, very dramatic.
It also is in stark contrast to the beginning of the movie, where they set up what the plot is. The plot basically is these, I believe they're Chinese, correct? Since they're celebrating,
yes,
because they're celebrating Chinese New Year, I assume that they're Chinese. So this Chinese couple living in, I would guess, New York, maybe L.A. I'm not entirely sure. Probably L.A. They're living in a city where they own a failing laundromat. And they're dealing with tax burdens, so they're trying to go to the IRS and take care of that, and suddenly get roped into this multiverse shattering kind of action sequence that happens throughout the entire film. It's kind of complex, but it's basically an immigrant couple that owns a business ends up being part of this multiverse kind of battle that happens between different times and different time zones and not time zones, but different forms of reality, essentially. When you are first introduced to the movie, it's not very visually distinctive. It's actually quite messy, and it feels quite grungy a little bit. But then when the movie starts popping all over the place, then the visual bombast starts in it. Yeah, the visuals I think is key strength in this. Because it's only for when you watch the movie the first time, I feel. I don't think it's going to hit as well if you watch it multiple times. Others might disagree. But when you're not expecting what's happening, I think it's when you're going to get the most out of this. Whereas, and we'll get more into why that is, whereas when you look back into it, it just feels, here's how I would put it. Visually, it is amazing. I would say depth-wise, it's kind of shallow in this.
Yeah, I think just visually, I thought it was a striking movie. I mean, the cinematography was just fantastic in some aspects, but as far as substance, I felt it was just really, really disjointed, and I think that was to the movie's detriment, in my opinion, because there's just so much going on, and of course, a movie almost kind of expects you to be able to follow along with just all the various things that are happening all over the place, and it's also kind of wild too, because I mean, you've got some moments where things are just super silly, and it's almost kind of absurdist in a way too.
Yeah.
And then you get into like the really, really serious end of things too in the movie, where you've got like nihilism and existentialism contrasting each other, and it's a bit wild to keep up with, and at the same time, just sometimes it almost just feels like something like barely a smear of butter on a piece of toast or something as far as substance goes.
Right, and the big issue that I think I've had with this, you're right about what I think what it's trying to talk about, which is the philosophical points of nihilism, existentialism, and stuff like that. I think they tried to base the battle, but with Evelyn, which is Michelle Yeoh's character, as a battle between nihilism, existentialism, and I wouldn't know what Huy Quan's character's philosophy is, but it's entirely happy and very positive thinking in that, and it's a battle to mix and match those two aspects in this. I just think the character that they wrote with Evelyn in this, I don't feel an investment in that character to essentially want to see her go through that journey, because the character in itself, to me, except for what's happening to her, is a blank slate. I understand what happened with her father and things like this is probably going to get into more spoiler territory, but I understand why she is the way she is. I just don't understand how I'm supposed to sympathize with her in this aspect. I think I'm mixing my words here, but the problem I think I have more with this, if this is going to be more about concepts and theory and about philosophy, that you would have to go more in depth with that than this movie did, and it just didn't do that. I think they could have gone either the route of character development and have you sympathize with the character, or they could have gone the more philosophical route. And they tried to blend the two, and it just didn't work. To me, at least. It is entertaining enough and visually distinctive enough where I can still enjoy the movie for what it is, but anything more than that, it's falling short on that end.
I'm kind of in agreement with you, what you just expressed and everything, but yeah, I think really just kind of the jumpiness of the movie. Again, I think it just kind of falls back to my point of just with how jumpy and disjointed the movie is overall. I don't think it does anything for the story, and I know some people may kind of look at it and go, well, just at the jumpiness and the just disjointed nature of it is part of the story. And I don't know, if anyone who would think to argue that point, I feel it's almost kind of a lazy point to use. But I don't know, maybe that's kind of a strong opinion for me to have.
I see your point. Okay, but I do, if someone were to mention that and say that's a lazy point to use, or if that's a strong point to use that without much substance, I'll offer this in that, because I think you're right on that. The thing that, with the jumpiness and everything, and we talked about this afterwards, is that even with the most random or most bombastic or confusing movies that are giving you complicated theories and ideas, there is a through line to whatever. Even with like the most esoteric movies, there is a through line that you're supposed to connect with to go through all the chaff to make that randomness make a little sense. My feeling is that the narrative that they gave didn't necessarily benefit the craziness that it was showing in the movie. The visual bombast, all the crazy aspects and everything involving multiverses and how they connect to another multiverse version of you, in theory and in the visual aspect of it, is interesting and at times funny. But when it comes down to the core of the story, which is an immigrant story about a couple struggling to get by in America and society, it just doesn't gel with that type of film. It doesn't say anything more than, look at this random shit, and look at all this crazy stuff that's happening, and then sandwiched in it is this story that really it makes up for 30 minutes of the movie, maybe? I think that's my thought on that juxtaposition in that. Because I think if it weren't for the visual appeal of the movie, I probably wouldn't like this movie. But based on the visuals alone and the performances, which we'll get to, it ekes its way to giving it a recommendation, but a tacit one. Just a one like, it's fine, it's a good movie, but it's predominantly flawed in a substantial way in this.
I would definitely agree that this one, while I would recommend it, there would definitely be some limiting cases on how comfortable I'd be recommending it overall.
Yeah, like my parents asked me about this movie. They said, "Oh, have you heard about this movie?" I guess there's articles going on about it possibly winning the Oscars. Like, oh, that looks interesting. And with some of the stuff that's in the movie, I was like, no, no, you don't want to watch this. Like, you wouldn't appreciate it. It's like, don't do it. You're not going to. You're not going to like it. So yeah, that's like the other thing too. Some of the random stuff they did was like, is that really necessary? It's like, I mean, they would go from. I guess we can get into a little. This won't really spoil the movie, but the way that people jump to different personalities is they do something incredibly outlandish that is antithetical to what their belief system is. Would that be? I'm not even sure, to be completely honest now. Like,
the way how the story sets things up is that every decision that you make in life potentially makes a different multiverse or a different dimensional version of yourself, and so to kind of adjust a person's experiences and skills to reach certain jumping points to basically gain those experiences from a different dimensional version of themselves, you do something that would basically just sort of trigger like a dimensional memory of sorts.
Mm-hmm. And it's an interesting concept that might have been done a couple times in other different types of fiction, but it's an interesting concept, and the way they visually do it is interesting in itself. Something in the depth of what they were talking about seems shallow. It's either the story of, I think it's mostly the story of the characters more than it is the aspects of the ideas that they're talking about, but even the ideas that they're talking about is kind of half-baked on top of it. When we stopped watching the movie, and we kind of forced ourselves to stop talking about it, well, mostly stopping myself from talking about it, I mentioned The Matrix, okay? The Matrix was highly successful at what it did, not only because of its visual appeal and its stunt work, but also the ideas behind it. I mean, if it was just about the stunt work and the visual appeal, The Matrix wouldn't have, I think, the cultural cachet that it has right now. We wouldn't be talking about red pill, blue pill in memes or in political discourse right now if it was just about the visuals and the action. But the ideas were baked enough in that movie to make the world surrounding it more interesting. And I think that's what Everything Everywhere All at Once lacks, is that the world that it's created doesn't have enough depth into it that would make it a much more interesting and captivating universe and world to dive into. And I think that's where it falls apart in its basic direction, where I think they were going for that kind of thing. I would not be the slightest bit surprised if we hear in another 2 years we're doing a sequel to this movie. But I don't think it warrants it because I don't think the depth is really there.
To your point about just The Matrix having a little bit more structure, I think that's another point in the whole in my thought of just how disjointed the movie feels. It just feels like that they're trying to pack a whole bunch of story in just one movie in a very short amount of time, and I just think it's unfortunately to the detriment of the movie overall. I mean, I think if things were spaced out a little bit more, maybe it wouldn't feel as disjointed, but all they had a budget for was just one movie, and then that was it. There wasn't like maybe enough budgeting for maybe a 2-part movie or maybe a trilogy of sorts, but that's just kind of my thought when you had mentioned just The Matrix and how The Matrix has a bit of structure that has benefited it as a whole.
The thing, though, is The Matrix did that in one movie. It wasn't intended to be a trilogy at first, but they did all that world building in one movie. And Everything Everywhere All at Once is not a short movie. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes. So what would your thought be if I were to say maybe it should be a TV series? What if they did a streaming TV instead of doing the movie, that they did a TV streaming series based on this? Do you think that maybe, and this is highly speculative, do you think that would have been a better idea on this? Or do you think that the ideas that they had here were still so half-baked that they just needed more work when it came to building the actual world behind it?
The thought of turning it into a TV show isn't a bad one, because at least you could try to space out some of the things that they're trying to explain and everything. And I think that would have been a very unique idea to see. Though, just we've seen with how streaming TV shows are these days, that my concern would be right when things get good, the show gets canceled.
Yeah, if it's definitely on Netflix, that definitely happens. The main thing when it comes to the crux of the movie, when it comes to the world that it tries to build, like we've talked about the depth of the movie, where is the characters, the world, the ideas that it's laying across. I think you put it best. It's a butter smear on a toast more than is the actual bread being formed on this. Is that the best way to put it?
Yeah, and honestly, it's just so sad because I think if the pacing was better with being able to let things get a little bit more developed, that things weren't so disjointed, I think things could have resulted in being a little bit more solid of an experience, and maybe potentially helping the film not feel so disjointed. But unfortunately, just it is what it is, and it's the film that we have today.
I was excited to see this film too, and mainly it's from the buzz of a lot of people that I respect on Twitter that said this film is an amazing film. And I hate to be the type of person to just ask, what are you guys seeing that I'm not seeing? But I think I get what they're seeing. I just don't understand the depth behind it. Like, I think that's the disconnect I'm having here, because a lot of people, there are people who are film lovers on Twitter who've seen this 3, 4, 5, 6 times already and have loved it every time. And I can see myself watching this a second time going, I see more problems. I see more issues. I just think, I think this is the last time I'll say this, visually, it's a spectacle and it's entertaining in that sense. Depth-wise, character and the ideas that are put upon it are half-baked at best. And it's a disappointment because the ideas that they have in this movie are fascinating and are interesting, and I think the directors, with their the visuals that they have, could have made something really good. Like I said, I can only tacitly recommend it than enthusiastically recommend it, which I think is a disappointment. Let's go into performances. The performance that is getting the most praise in the Oscar season, that people are standing big time to win an Oscar, is Michelle Yeoh's performance in this movie as Evelyn, the matriarch of the family that is going through all the tax burdens and the problems in the movie. This isn't anywhere near one of her better performances. Like, this is it's a decent performance, but it certainly, except for like the physical stuff, the physical comedy and the martial arts stuff that she does, this lacks a certain depth of character work that she is very capable of doing. I came up saying I like the performance, but I'm not overly impressed by it.
I kind of came with sort of the same result as well, too. It was, I mean, some of the stunt choreography stuff that she's involved in the movie is pretty good. Some of it is a little bit on the fun side too, but it definitely doesn't shine more than some of the stuff that she's done in the past.
I'm gonna piss people off, but I would say her performance in Crazy Rich Asians is better. It's gonna piss some people off because, like, how could you say that? But it is, because at least in that movie, She is a definitive character doing a specific performance and performing it well. Whereas, and this might be the problem with the script, so that might not be fair to give Yeoh this criticism. But in this performance, I guess because of the nature of the character, it's kind of a blank slate performance in a certain extent. She's only supposed to emit the emotions that are required of the scene. Nothing bigger than that in this. There's no overall sense of exasperation of what she's going through throughout the entire film. And that may not be the thing that the film needs, I guess, but it still makes it not as good of a performance as she's had in other films, such as, I don't know, right off the top of my head, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. That's a masterful performance. Not only did she do a great physical job with the stunts, but emotionally, she did a very good job in that movie. You identified with that character. She was fantastic. She was robbed of a nomination in that movie. But in this movie, I don't see where all the praise is coming from here. I know praising Michelle Yeoh. I love Michelle Yeoh. But this is not one of her better performances. It's a good performance, but it's not something I would say is a fantastic performance that defines her career. There are so many better ones that she has, I would say, in other films.
It's a good performance. I mean, it's not one of her best.
Right.
But it's also, in my opinion, I don't think it's like one of the top performances she's done. I mean, I thought she was all right, but I felt that she's done better in the past.
I agree, and that's where I think a lot. Here's a controversial statement. I think a lot of people who are praising this performance have only seen her in things like Tomorrow Never Dies and the third Mummy movie. I don't think they've seen her good performances, because if you've seen the performances that she's been in that are absolutely fantastic, you would look at this performance and go, oh, comparatively it's okay. I think that's where it's coming from at this point. It's kind of frustrating, but on the other hand, would I like to see her get some praise that she's actually deserved for her performances? Yes, but I would rather people say, this movie's good, but she was really good in Crouching Tiger, or she was really good in this Chinese martial arts movie that no one's heard about. Like, I would rather hear that than people overpraising this movie for what it is, than because they want to honor her, who deserves it. She's a fantastic actress. But this is where a lot of disconnect with film goers and film fans and film lovers are, where they overly praise a performance that is okay, is good, but not great, and then someone watches and goes, I don't see what the hell you're talking about here. And this is what I'm afraid of. People will watch this movie saying, it's okay, it's a decent performance, I guess, but I don't see what you guys are going flipping crazy about. And then they completely forget, well, I'm not going to watch the rest of it. If you think this is one of her best performances, I'm not going to watch the other things that you think are great, because that wasn't that great. So that's my conniption fit with that, at least. Sure, what do you think is Michelle Yeoh's best performance? I think it's Crouching Tiger, like with a bullet in this. What do you?
Yeah, Crouching Tiger is probably one of her best performances, at least in recent memory. There's probably a few movies of her that she has starred in from the Asian cinema scene that I'd probably have to try to double check myself and remember. But if being called on the spot, it's kind of hard to just go, hey, this one is the one.
Okay, that's fine. I know that she got her big role in Police Story 3, Super Cop. I know that was I think the big one that she got the role of with Jackie Chan. But yeah, she's had a bunch of films in Asian cinema that were not only great performances, but made a lot of money. So the other thing that I hate about this is that Michelle Yeoh needs the Oscar to affirm that she's a great actress. No, she doesn't. Like, she does not need the Oscar. If Hollywood does not want to honor her, guess what? International cinema will do it for her. It's not necessary. But anyway, let's get past Michelle Yeoh here. let's get into some other performances, namely ones that are getting nominated for Oscars. Why is Jamie Lee Curtis getting nominated for Best Supporting Actress? It's fine, and it's a funny, kind of ridiculous role, but like I don't get it.
I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis was in a couple scenes, but I don't think it was as she was in as many scenes as Stephanie Hsu was.
Yes.
So that's why I kind of felt that kind of a nomination was a bit weird. It's just like, okay, well, that's strange.
Well, Stephanie Hsu did get nominated for Best Supporting Actress as well.
Okay.
Her nomination was a surprise. Hsu's nominations. So we're getting to Oscar speculative territory here. She has no shot in winning. Like, she's not gotten nominated anywhere else except for the Independent Spirit Awards. Hsu isn't winning. Right now, it looks like Jamie Lee Curtis is probably going to win. But I would say Hsu's performance is a lot better. It's a much more diverse, and she does more with her character in the movie than I think a one-note performance by Jamie Lee Curtis does in this movie. They all act outlandish and weird and in different ways, which is part of the movie, and they do a good job with that and have enough lack of seriousness in it to where it is fun. They're fun performances with Jamie Lee Curtis. It's a fun performance. Is it a great performance? No, it really is not. It's a fun, kind of decent performance in this. And I think this Oscar nomination and this win is going to be more along the lines of, we want to honor somebody who's been doing this for like 40 years, which I hate those awards, but anyway. Stephanie Hsu's performance is good in this, I will say. I like her performance. She's very dynamic and does a lot of diverse and different things in the movie and nails everything. She goes from sensitive person who is dealing with a lot of issues to then the main villain of the movie, and she does a lot of different things and does it very well. So I get the praise for her performance in this.
Same, just it's just kind of wild, just the range of roles that she goes through in the movie and everything, because you got some roles where she's on the sensitive side, then you've got some roles where she's on the seriously nihilistic side, and then you've got some of the roles that she's put into the movie where it's just absolute absurdism. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of a wild range of things that she's sort of cast in for this movie.
Let's get to what I think is the performance of the movie, and that's Huy Quan. I now get why everyone thinks he's going to win Best Supporting Actor. This is a very good performance by him. He does this character. Speaking of diverse, like, Hsu's performance is diverse and she does different things, but they're clearly different characters. And she's just doing different characters at different points. Quan is doing something a little different in this movie, where he is playing the same character, and he has to have a connection with each character with differences that are constant throughout the entire film, and you believe that he is going through those changes in a snap like that. Like, at no point did I see a struggle or an issue or anything. You believed instantaneously what's going on and what he's doing with that performance. And that's a hard performance to do. That's a showy-ass performance, and it is a very good performance. I really like Huy Quan in this.
Yeah, he was excellent. He plays a great counterbalance to the nihilism from Stephanie Hsu's character, mm-hmm. and I thought that was kind of cool to see. Yeah, and he plays the husband of Evelyn in this movie. I think is it Wayne or is it Wayne? Is it Wayne or Waymond? Waymond. Okay, thank you. He plays Waymond in the original, when you first see him, as kind of a meek, agreeable, very nice, but kind of a doormat kind of a person. And then when they switch around, he's this very self-confident, very really tough, really self-assured person. And both are entirely believable. And I can't stress how hard that is to have both characters be very believable, played by the same actor. It is very hard to do, and he deserves the praise he's getting.
That's the one thing I think that people don't talk he's gonna get the awards. I mean, whatever. Like, I think he deserves it. But that's, I think, the one thing when they're praising Yeoh so much in this, that it's kind of having people being quiet on Quan, where I think all the praise should go to Quan in this. Quan does a amazing job in this movie. It is a great performance. When he's on screen at any point in time, he is great in this. Like, that performance is outstanding. Not to shortchange Yeoh in any way, but Quan is just excellent in this.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I want to touch on editing real quick. This must have been a daunting editing experience to do this movie. Like, it must have been a headache and a half. And the person who edited this movie, I don't have the name, I'm sorry, I think did a fantastic job in this for what it is. I don't think the issues with the story are due to editing. I think it's due to the way it was written. Because the editing does as good a job as any to make you realize what's going on in certain aspects of the film in a clear, concise way.
Yeah, just the editing just seems like it was one hell of a task, especially when you have some sequences where it goes to something that's kind of got fluid action going on, then moving into this like crayon animated sort of thing going on, and then you've got this like stop motion sequence with some rocks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The first thing I was thinking of is, holy crap, that just has to be an editing nightmare.
Yeah.
Just having to try to blend those scenes together that they flow somehow and not make it seem like just you're having to interrupt one scene to move on to another scene. Because in one part of the movie, it goes through just all these different types of scenes so very rapidly. And just that was one of the first thoughts that just came to my mind. It was just like, wow, this had to be an editing nightmare.
Mm-hmm. Even though the film did feel disjointed, I don't think it's because of the editing. I think it's the writing in this. So I just want to give special attention to the editing. Because I could see where some people would think, well, then that's usually a problem with editing. I don't think that's the case in this. I think this is more along the lines that the framework of the movie itself had an apparent flaw that was not sussed out before it was shot. But I think the editing did a great job of this. All right, Zero. So now that you're back, we're going to go into final thoughts of the film. Why don't you go right ahead and give us your final thoughts of Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Really, I think it just ultimately will kind of fall on the point that I had made earlier in this discussion. Just, I think the film is visually striking, but unfortunately, just with the writing for the story just being so disjointed and so jumpy, that instead of sort of building a very, very lore-rich universe, it ends up being a detriment to the experience, because you're trying to keep up with all these details and everything is just moving so quickly that at some points you have to kind of go back in your mind and try to recall some of the details to sort of make sense out of just the mess that is the story at times. And it's something that I would really, really have to carefully recommend to someone. It's not something that I would easily be able to recommend to just about everyone.
And there are things in this movie that I honestly think this should have been a PG-13 movie and not an R-rated movie. And the only reason it's R-rated because of, well, some interesting things that these characters do to get into their jumping mode, I should say, that are of a sexual nature. Like, I looked at those scenes and goes, that was unnecessary. Why did you need to do that? But anyway, I agree with you. The movie visually is very appealing. I joked about this when we talked about it after the movie. I think this is a generational divide movie where I think people our age are going to look at this and go, what the hell is happening? But people who are used to short bursts of content, like from TikTok and stuff like that, might find this much more appealing because a lot more is happening in a more rapid pace in this. So I think with a younger set, I could probably recommend this a little more. But with, I would say, our age and up, it'd be very hard for me to recommend this to others. I liked the movie, but I still am pretty disappointed by it overall. And that's, I think, more to basically what everyone else thought of the movie in this case. So maybe I shouldn't really dock that from the movie itself. It's a fun movie. It's entertaining. I don't get the inordinate amount of praise that it's really getting at this point, but I think it's interesting in it. But it's a very flawed movie. I'd give it 3 stars. I'm giving it the same rating I gave it Top Gun Maverick, and for the same reasons. It's an entertaining movie. It didn't leave me bored. It kept me interested, but that's all it did. It basically made 2 hours and 20 minutes just go away in an entertaining way. That's it. That's all this movie did. And for that, I give it 3 stars. It's a good movie. It's not great. I don't get the inordinate praise it's getting. It is good nonetheless. And that's it. 3 stars. Do you want to give it a rating, or do you not want to bother with that?
I might give it maybe 3.5.
Okay.
But I think that's kind of where I stand on it.
Okay. 3 stars for me, 3.5 for 0.